If you guys have a Mercedes this generation, then this part is probably broken on your car. And if it's been fixed, it's probably broken again. Anyway, I'm gonna show you how to fix it once and for all for pretty cheap too. Hey guys, welcome back to Exotic Car DIY. So the part I am referring to is the lower control arm, or the camber control arm right here. And typically what happens is the bushing breaks and this slides and hits the frame and makes all kinds of squeaking sounds, grinding noises and stuff like that. And typically it's almost always the driver's side, but the passenger side can fail too. As you can see, mine is busted right now, and that's what happens. And the problem is it's a two-piece bushing and it's just not tight enough, and it just slides out of the way. And so Mercedes does not sell the bushing, and they really don't make an aftermarket bushing, except for a company called K-Mech does make an adjustable ones, and I'll show you those in a second because I do have them. They're really expensive. So anyway, the dilemma here is if you buy the factory part for whatever it is, 300 bucks, it's just gonna fail again and again and again. That's pretty much the common typical thing on the forums. And so there is an aftermarket option, and the good news is it's really cheap. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But there is one other option. You may have seen it, and I'll link the video in the description below. There is a free way to do this if you have a welder, and that's what I did on this one because this one was broke when I bought the car. So just check out the description. It shows you the link, and you can see the procedure of how to do it for free if you have a welder. But you're kind of better off just doing it replacement. So here on the table, I do have the replacement parts. They are made from a company called, what is it? Mevotech or something like that. And the cool thing about these, if we open one up, they're pretty much 100% identical to the factory one in their shape, but the bushing here is a one-piece bushing, and it's pretty sturdy. So it's not going to cause any weird vibrations, however, but it will probably add a little bit of rigidity to our suspension. So I'm actually really excited to install these. I hope it'll maybe kind of improve some of the feeling of the car, in addition to not having parts on our car that will break all the time. On the forums, there's quite a few people that run these that have had 50,000+ miles with zero failures, and so it seems to be a very reliable part. Again, links are in the description and you can check it out. And also, for the most part, regular tools will work, but you will need one of these ball joint poppers. I think you can rent these from like AutoZone for free, or you can just buy one on Amazon. I think it was like 15 bucks or whatever. So the link is in the description for that. The only other thing you'll need is probably one of these cans of propane, because you will have to heat up the control arm to make the ball joint pop, and it comes up pretty violently. So I will show you how to do this, but this isn't a super hard job. You just need this and some basic mechanic skills, and you should be able to do this. Again, you also don't need it on a lift. You can do this on the floor just as easily, if not easier. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and one more thing. It's a common question. If I install these, do I need an alignment? Well, first off, alignments on these are pretty much just a waste of money anyway, because there's nothing that's adjustable other than the toe. So I went ahead and took a bunch of specs before, and we'll compare those to after to see if it really messes up the toe at all and anything to do with our alignment. I always like to zero it out on like a level on the flattest part of my garage surface. That kind of gives you more accurate readings. So passenger front shown about 1.5 degrees of negative camber. And the driver's side, we're also showing about 1.55 degrees of negative camber. So we'll check it after the replacement and see where we're at. We'll also check the toe with these, and I'm showing 77 5/8 and 77 5/8. So I got exactly zero toe. And if you guys are ever wondering why you're getting like really bad wear on these, it's almost always because Mercedes sets them up cross-side. If you set these things up with zero toe, your tire wear just completely goes away. All right, let's replace these. All right, so first thing you're going to do after you safely jack up the car is just remove the wheels. Now we're going to switch underneath the car. Go ahead and take a little WD-40 and just kind of spray around this area. There's not really a whole lot of places for it to penetrate, but any little bit helps. Then we're just going to carefully pry off the headlight sensor. You can usually gently pop them off. Remember the orientation of how it is. Basically, the arm goes towards the axle on it. You just kind of safely put it out of the way. Now 21 millimeter on impact's easiest, but you can use anything. It comes right off. We'll go ahead and thread this back on there. So technically, since we are replacing this, we can really hammer on this if we want to pop it off, but I'd rather do it properly first. So we're going to put the nut back on there, take our tool, we're just going to tap it into here. All right, now the tool, well, that one wasn't supposed to happen. As you can see, it already worked. So I'll have to show you on the other side. I wasn't expecting it to come out that easy, but maybe it's because I did this one last time and didn't have the chance over 5,000 miles to seize its way back in. So we'll go over to the other side. All right, so same thing on this side. Pop off the arm gently, usually just kind of wiggling out. It'll come out free. Undo the bolt. Now this one's never been done before, at least to my knowledge. Tap that on there. Now we gotta tighten this bolt. All right, so now the idea is that as you tighten this, it's pushing the nut up for you. Usually when they come off with a little bang. There it goes. All right. So when I did that one 5,000 miles ago when I first got the car, I actually had to get a torch. Basically, you put a decent amount of pressure on this because you don't want to break the tool. So I don't know, maybe it was probably 30 foot-pounds. So there's a lot of tension. I applied heat right here for 2 minutes and it popped. So when this expands, it lets it free. So apparently this one was good enough to go on its own, so I didn't even have to use them. So to remove that, you can insert a wrench and a T40 and just kind of spin it out. So now we can remove the nut. Remember, it's going to pop up. Not a big deal here. There it goes. All right, technically this can get pushed out of the way if we need it to come out. All right, now with both sides off, note again how this is straight out. When we reinstall this, you're supposed to tighten it at, like when the car's under its own weight. Well, the best way to do that is to just tighten it straight across as it is now. So basically its natural position is there, and so when we reinstall it has to be at this orientation. So 21 millimeter either side. These ones are pretty tight. And unfortunately, you can't get an impact, and I don't have a 21 millimeter ratchet that'll fit on here, so wrench it the whole way. So loosen it, and it should just slide right out. There we go. You can actually see and hear what's making the noise. So when it was bad, it was rubbing up against here really bad. And so obviously that was transferring a lot of vibrations to the car, as well as just noise. Anytime you went over a bump, it's just grinding and stuff there. One thing that I find interesting is when you look at these cars, anytime one gets listed on like a website like Bring a Trailer for Sale, and they do the underbody shots, I always look at the control arm on the driver's side, and every single one is bad. It's just crazy how common this is and how Mercedes has never been able to address it. But luckily, for literally, a quarter of the cost of new, you can get two aftermarket ones that actually are much, much better. So over on the pool table here, we can see kind of the difference between the two. As you can see, they're pretty much identical in their shape. All the bumps are in the right place. The thickness is the same. Basically, the design is exactly the same everywhere. The only difference is, like I said, this one has the two-piece bushing that slides out really easily. You can see my old repair here is just a tack weld a little bit there and there. But the bushing on this is a one-piece solid and pressed. And like I mentioned, the other option is the K-Mac stuff. If you're on the forums, anytime somebody mentions something about bushing, the K-Mac guy jumps in all caps yelling at everybody. But this is their product, so apparently you push this bushing out, this one goes in. And the cool thing about these is you can rotate them around, and it basically gives you a ton of adjustment in your camber. But I have these because I wasn't sure if I can get this one in spec, but I'm more than within specs, so I don't need to install those. So anyway, what we're going to do now is swap over the headlight level sensors over to the new ones and then reinstall. The last thing I will mention, if you look at the link I have on Amazon for the part numbers on these, for some reason it says does not fit the Mercedes E63, but obviously it does. Everybody uses them, so something about Amazon's part finder thing is not correct, so just kind of ignore that. Other than the way you mount the headlight sensors, there is no left and right. Either side can go on either side. Typically Amazon does have them in stock. And just as a heads up, any of the links you see for Amazon in my description, if you click on those, I get like 10 cents. So, you know, feel free to support me 10 cents at a time by buying those. But if not, you can also get them on eBay. I think right now the price on these is like 60 bucks each. Cool. All right, so now we're ready to reinstall. Now what I've done, you can do this with a floor jack, or I'm using this jack. I kind of, whoa, hit myself in the face. I kind of just jacked up on this to push it out of the way. The only reason I did that is now we can tighten it at a 90-degree angle with nothing, you know, pushing it on it at all. So we'll go ahead and leave it like that, tighten it up. Now that it's snug, you can kind of see our default locations over there. So now we're going to crank this down. Now Mercedes has an interesting torque spec for this. It's 120 Newton meters plus 180 degrees. So anyway, let's that's really tight, by the way. All right. So now I'll just make a little black mark here. And that black mark's on the other side. That's when we know we've gone 180 degrees. And we'll leave this one exactly where it is. Now some of you guys might be saying that, well, you really need to be torquing the nut side. There's absolutely no room to get this on here over there. So this is our only option. A little bit more. All right, so now we've torqued it 180 degrees. All right, so now we can take this down and go ahead and install our ball joint. Whee. A little findangling, but it'll go in. Okay. To be honest, most people just zip these on with impacts because that's like the easiest way, but we can do it this way too. Jeez. All right, 50 Newton meters on this one. And we gotta go 90 degrees. All right, so there is 50 Newton meters plus 90 degrees. So now our headlight sensor can go back, pop it in place. All right, and actually let me show you guys something on the other side. This was in my alignment video, but maybe you guys didn't see it. Alignments on the E63 are kind of pointless because there is no adjustment here, with an asterisk. If you buy one of these, this is the crash bolt. And so I don't need these because mine is within spec, but I'll show you how they work. So essentially the bolt has a guide through it all the way. Then up here you kind of got this weird trapezoid kind of looking thing. So when this is through here, you can now tighten this in two different ways. The washers even have that little indentation. So depending on which way you tighten it, it actually displaces the bolt in different directions. So if you insert the bolt like this, now it's pushed this way, which will actually pull your camber in. If you install it with the bolt this way and tighten it, now it's pushed out for more negative camber. So that's how these bolts work. They don't allow for a lot of adjustment, but they do allow for some. So 0.3 in either direction. So by pushing this control arms in, less negative camber, control arms out, you get more negative cambers. So anyway, that's how they work. Most places won't ever do that. They'll literally charge you $200 because it's a Mercedes or something like that. And all they'll do is set the toe. And the toe is, you can do with the tape measure as you see in this video. So once again, we're just gonna kind of get it snug. There we go. So we can use a jack to gently push the brake assembly away. That'll give us plenty of room. Maybe plenty of room. A little more. A little more. There we go. Now we're straight. Okay, again, put it at 90 degrees, and that's where we're going to torque it down. Make our little mark on the head, not the washer, of course. One more thing to do. Get this ball joint attached. So bring him back in. God, I love this paint. Am I supposed to put in a plug for my brake video? Watch my brake video, guys. Try a different method. Now, besides the black color, which kind of goes with the midnight theme on my car, they look pretty factory to me. Torque to 50. Okay, we got to go 90. Now, obviously this video is edited, but real time, this took me like less than an hour to do. And so, yes, there's some little things. I did get stuck on that one because I didn't take the nut all the way off on the passenger side. So after I broke it, the nut was just spinning the ball joint. So I had to like hammer it back in there. And actually I did use the torch for there, so I'm glad I had the torch. But note to self, when you do it, make sure you back the nut all the way out so it can freely hand spin before you pop the ball joint. But the new ones are on there. They look great. We double checked everything, all the torque's done, and time to get it on the floor. Now we need to double check to see if it affected the alignment at all. I do have to finish up an oil change right now. Check this out though. Walmart had a sale. I now have 50 quarts. These are all jugs of 5W40 Mobile One. So pretty much gonna have to have some kind of European car like indefinitely now, because that's like a lifetime supply. But I will use quite a bit of it, I'm sure. Anyway, let's get this buttoned up. All right, job's all done back on the ground. So now let's check the alignment. So I just zeroed this out. Check this side real quick. We're getting 1.4. Remember, I could have zeroed it out just slightly wrong, but 1.45. So this one's 1.5 before. So basically exactly the same. Come over to this side. 1.5. So 0 changed on the camber. So now let's check the toe. All right, and then to check the toe, so over here I'm getting 77 and almost 5/8, and over here 77 and pretty much dead 5/8. So that would probably mean we're towed in maybe, you know, 0.08, 0.16, somewhere in that range, like less than a 1/16 of an inch. So yes, basically it does not affect your alignment. It looks like the precision on these mounts is really, really good.